On May 1, 1960, a single aircraft plunged the world to the brink of nuclear war. That day wasn't just another date on the calendar. It was a pivotal moment when the Cold War's icy grip tightened and the fragility of global peace became terrifyingly clear. An American U-2 spy plane, designed to fly untouchably high above Soviet defenses, was shot down deep within enemy territory. The incident didn't just expose a sophisticated covert operation. It shattered a carefully constructed diplomatic facade, leading to accusations, denials, and a dramatic collapse of a crucial superpower summit. The pilot, Francis Gary Powers, became a pawn in a high-stakes geopolitical chess match. To understand the U-2 incident, we must first rewind to the mid-1950s. The Cold War was in full swing, and both the United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a desperate struggle for intelligence dominance. The Soviets were notoriously secretive, their vast landmass a black box of military installations and technological advancements. President Eisenhower desperately needed to know the true extent of the Soviet Union's missile capabilities. The bomber gap and later the missile gap were pressing concerns, fueled by a genuine fear that the Soviets might be leapfrogging American defenses. Ground-based intelligence was insufficient, and traditional reconnaissance aircraft were too vulnerable. The solution came in the form of the Lockheed U-2 Dragon Lady. Developed in secret by Kelly Johnson's Skunk Works, this aircraft was revolutionary. It could fly at altitudes exceeding 70,000 feet, far above the reach of Soviet interceptors and surface-to-air missiles of the era. It was, quite literally, untouchable. The U-2 carried highly advanced cameras, capable of photographing details on the ground from incredible heights. Its mission, to peer behind the Iron Curtain, to uncover missile sites, airfields, and other critical intelligence that could shift the balance of power. For 4 years, U-2 flights crisscrossed Soviet airspace with impunity. They provided invaluable intelligence, debunking many of the Soviet Union's exaggerated claims about their military strength. Yet, each flight was a calculated risk, a direct violation of Soviet sovereignty, and a potential flashpoint for conflict. The Soviets knew these flights were happening. They detected the high-flying intruders on radar, but their attempts to intercept them were futile. Soviet pilots often chased the U-2s, only to stall out at lower altitudes, their missiles failing to reach the spy plane's incredible height. Tensions were already high when, in the spring of 1960, a four-power summit was scheduled in Paris, aimed at easing Cold War hostilities. President Eisenhower saw this as a crucial opportunity for de-escalation, but the need for intelligence, particularly regarding Soviet ICBM, remained paramount. Despite the diplomatic overtures, a U-2 mission, codenamed Operation Overflight, was approved for May 1. The target, a series of Soviet missile test sites and industrial complexes deep within the USSR. The pilot chosen for this incredibly risky mission was Francis Gary Powers, an experienced U-2 pilot. Powers took off from Peshawar, Pakistan, in his U-2, tail number 360, at 6:26 a.m. local time. His flight plan would take him across the Soviet Union, from south to north, before landing in Bodo, Norway. It was a routine mission, or so it seemed. Hours into the flight, while over Sverdlovsk, deep in Soviet territory, Powers felt a sudden jolt. A bright orange flash illuminated his cockpit. He realized his aircraft had been hit. The U-2 began to tumble violently, its wings shearing off. Powers struggled to eject. The plane was breaking apart around him. He managed to free himself, but not before being entangled in his parachute lines. He fell for thousands of feet before finally deploying his chute, landing in a field near a collective farm. He was quickly captured by Soviet villagers and soldiers. Crucially, he was found alive, and with him, not just pieces of the U-2 wreckage, but also his survival kit, a pistol, and even a silver dollar containing a poison needle, a last resort he hadn't used. Back in Washington, initial reports from the CIA indicated Powers was missing. The agency, assuming the plane had been destroyed beyond recognition and the pilot killed, issued a cover story. NASA announced that a weather research plane had gone missing over Turkey. Then, on May 5th, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev dropped a bombshell. He announced that an American spy plane had been shot down over Soviet territory. He even offered details, including the altitude, and implied the pilot had been killed. The US, still believing Powers was dead and the plane unrecognizable, doubled down on its weather plane story. This was a monumental miscalculation, a critical error in the game of Cold War deception. Khrushchev knew the truth and was simply setting a trap. On May 7th, Khrushchev revealed his trump card. Francis Gary Powers was alive and well, captured, and had confessed to being a spy. Not only that, but the Soviets had recovered significant portions of the U-2, including its cameras and reconnaissance equipment. The revelation was a profound humiliation for the United States. President Eisenhower was forced to admit the truth, taking personal responsibility for the spy flights. The meticulously planned Paris summit, meant to ease tensions, utterly collapsed. Khrushchev, enraged by the deception and the timing of the spy flight just before the summit, launched a scathing attack on the U.S. He withdrew his invitation to Eisenhower to visit the USSR, and the prospect of any meaningful détente evaporated. Gary Powers himself became a propaganda tool for the Soviets. He was put on trial in Moscow, accused of espionage, and sentenced to 10 years in prison. His family back home feared the worst, a permanent fixture in the Soviet gulag. But the story didn't end there. In 1962, after 21 months in Soviet captivity, Powers was exchanged for Soviet spy Rudolf Abel on the Glienicke Bridge in Berlin. This iconic moment, straight out of a spy novel, brought him back to American soil, but not to an easy reception. Powers faced suspicion and scrutiny, accused by some of not destroying his plane or using the suicide pill. It took years for his reputation to be fully restored, the weight of a global crisis resting on his shoulders. He passed away in 1977 in a helicopter crash, his story a poignant reminder of the personal cost of the Cold War. The U-2 incident fundamentally altered the trajectory of the Cold War. It highlighted the dangers of espionage, the fragility of international relations, and how a single, high-altitude flight could ignite a global crisis that brought the world to the precipice of nuclear confrontation. Explore the shadowy world of Cold War defections next, and the spies who switched sides.